All right, guys. Episode 4, LifeCall podcast. You know the usual mantra. I'm Brendan Varon,
Justin Rakovitz.
and today we got a new face on the podcast, Nick.
Hey, what's up, everybody? My
Nick.
name's Nick, 27 from Hanson, Massachusetts. Got asked to go on here, and I obliged. So
Thank you.
Hey,
Yep.
yo, we really appreciate it because you're the first not wicked close homie we're having on, so it's kind of nice to get somebody on that neither of us know a shit ton. Like I don't know you at all. We've never met each other. I don't think I've really seen you around too much. I know you guys brush elbows a little bit with like the biking world and the car world and everything like that.
Yep.
So it's kind of nice to get a fresh, unfamiliar face on the pod.
Absolutely.
And eager to get to know you and get to know a little bit about what you're about. So
the famous Nick Lick.
Yep,
yeah,
that's
dude.
it.
Yeah, Brian Worcester last night I was hanging out with him. He's like, "You don't know Nick Lick," and I was like, "Bro, I'm gonna be real honest with you. Like, you guys know so many people. There's so many different people like in this area, like in the car world, in the biking, in the snowboarding world, that it's kind of just like you brush elbows with so many different people over the years."
That's so funny though. I haven't heard that name in so long.
Brian,
that
really?
goes way back. No, Lick. That goes
Nick.
way back to like high school.
Damn.
Like I think I made Snapchat, and then the thing was like you flop the first letter.
Yeah.
So instead of Nick Ladeira, it was Lick Ladeira.
Yeah.
So just people just started calling me that, and that's where that came from.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's so
I had
funny.
no idea because Brian just called when he introduced you to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. God knows when, like 5 years ago.
Yep.
He was like, "Oh, this is Nick Lick." And I was like,
It's a good thing.
"That's always what I refer to you as."
It's banging nickname though. I like that.
Oh, I
shit.
appreciate it.
No,
Rolls
that's
off the
pretty good.
tongue.
It's funny you say that. The flipping the first letters.
Yeah.
Like I have some boys that do that like regularly.
It was like
with
a
so
thing
much
back
stuff.
then.
It's still
People
a thing
did.
with some people.
Yeah.
Like, I think they started doing it probably 10 years ago and they just never stopped.
Yep.
And it's like they just flip words all the time.
Even
It's funny.
Matt Silva's name.
Yeah,
Sat
Sat Milva.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Like flipping that
same
stuff
idea.
right there. It's funny. It works for some people. But get to know you a little bit. What would you say is like your number one current hobby? Like the number one thing you're spending a lot of like your good free time or working towards right
now? Since it's the winter, huge into snowboarding right now. I like to do that on the weekends. Right now, I'm pretty much a full-time student right now. And when I have free time, I'll go snowboarding, do a little bit of that. But this past summer into fall, got into fishing too, which is really cool. I really like fishing.
Nice.
Got super into that.
Yeah.
And then of course like BMXing and mountain biking as well.
You got the Tacoma all set up and stuff for everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You do like winter camping?
Yeah, so
awesome.
I did that for a while. So what I did was, when was it? Like 22. I got a truck camper for my truck, and if you don't know what that is, it's like a camper that you put into your bed of your truck. And this style is like a pop-up style, and it's really cool because it allows you to have like a little bit of a home away from home kind of thing.
Yeah, the roof pops up.
Yeah, it's really cool. So it has latches on 4 corners. I could put the snowboard up top. It has a little kitchen in there, heat.
Paint match too.
Yeah, so I painted that all up. That one was a little bit of an older model though. So I ended up selling it last year, but I got a good amount of use out of that. It was really fun.
I gotta say, like I saw that on the gram and it kind of gave me like some good Overlander vibes, but
yeah,
I didn't realize that it was, that's given me like, those old school like 90s like OBS style Ford when they got like the big like Winnebago add-on in the back. Like that's a nice like modern sleek take on it.
Absolutely.
And I really didn't even know that like they had stuff like that to that extent for like the Tacomas. Like I know like what is your brother and you have like the was your brother have like he used to have the platform.
Like yeah. Like the bed tent.
Yeah, so like that's kind of when I think like truck camping, that's kind of what I think.
So that's like what I started off with. So I had a rooftop tent on my truck for a little bit, and they say those are 4-season tents, but they're not really. You're gonna be cold. So I wanted something that you could even if you needed to do like a stealth camp, you can go to like a Walmart or something, or if like the mountain allows you to do camping, to have that option. And it has the heat and it has everything. We did solar on it. Me and my buddy Dan, he helped me out with the wiring on that. And Dan Sheehan, there you go.
Shout
out Dan.
Shout out Danny Imports.
And we built that up. We did that, and it just allowed me. It just had opened a lot of doors for me to go up. I really go to like to go to Vermont a lot.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we'd go up to like Mount Snow and Stowe and do that. And it allowed me to stay over for the weekend because usually without that, it's mostly like day trips kind of thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I get that. We go up to Vermont a lot, mountain biking and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. Killington.
yeah,
Sick.
Burke,
Yeah, Burke.
Killington, all in that same area
Absolutely.
with Okemo, all up there. Yeah.
My girl and I, we like to go up to the White Mountains and do a decent bit of hiking. But like you
Yeah.
said, you're limited to that day trip kind of deal. So we've kind of like bought the hiking gear and like the camping gear, you know, like a good fucking air mattress, good tent,
Absolutely.
good sleeping bags and everything like that to kind of like extend those weekends. Cause like lodging up there, like not to say like you can't afford it, but like, listen, man, like I like bang for my buck.
Exactly.
And it's like if I'm going up there to save money on hiking as a cheap hobby, I'm not going to be like, oh, let me fork over $260 for a night or two to like stay. So like I've really been looking into, you know, that kind of vibe and like staying overnight. And so I want to ask, you said that if a resort will allow you to camp overnight.
Yeah, so that's a thing. So not every mountain does allow that.
Yeah.
I guess it's mostly for safety too, and sometimes they need a plow where people need to park the next
definitely.
day. But I guess nowadays it's getting more popular and more mountains are accepting it. But you know, you just got to look at the mountain that you're going to go to first before going. So I'll usually call ahead, and if they're not down with it, then I try to find like something like a Walmart or something, just low key, and go from there. You know
Walmart's always the good backup.
Oh yeah, we've done that before.
Yeah,
we did that for a Poconos trip a few summers ago. Yeah,
Venetico was back in the day.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. Oh yeah, man, Walmart. Gotta love the Walmart parking lot hangs. Yeah. But what kind of snowboarding are you into? You like doing like terrain park? You like doing some like chill like kind of stuff?
So I mean, I like to be chill, hitting side hits and everything.
Okay.
I do like to practice in the park a lot. I've been doing that a lot recently. So I've been practicing that. But I'm down for everything. Glades, stay away from the moguls, the blacks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Just little too getting into it kind of deal.
Exactly.
So do you like to? So I kind of always like practicing in the terrain park is kind of help you transfer like those skills to the side hits and like the casual rides.
Yeah,
kind of like
absolutely.
You try more stuff in the controlled terrain park environment, and then that'll allow you to kind of bring those tricks or, you know, the flare hits or something like that to the casual riding experience. So then you're not trying stuff off a side hit that's like not as easy to try on.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing too is some mountains actually have like different kind of tiers of parks. Like they have like a more beginner park, a more advanced park, and some mountains are more geared towards more park features, and some aren't. It really depends on like if you want to ride more backcountry terrain or if you want to mess around in the park. But you don't have to go, like if you're ever interested in trying any park features, you don't have to go right to the big jumps and the big rails.
That's true.
You can start off on the little stuff too, and that's usually what I do to just build confidence.
Yeah, nice. So do you try to mimic your BMX or mountain bike style into snowboarding?
A little bit, yeah. I like to be more like I'd say I have more like of a jibby kind of style. Like I like rails and ledges and stuff too, so I kind of mess around with that. I'd like to get into like bigger jumps and stuff too, but sometimes it gets a little scary trying to hit those bigger jumps, you know.
Okay. So then BMX, you're kind of street style more
for
than
sure. For sure. I've definitely been more geared towards like the street style rather than like the park style.
Okay.
For sure.
That makes sense.
I've always had a good appreciation for like the street style when it comes to either skating, BMX, or really anything. It's just like kind of like the free form. Like I remember growing up as a kid and like, you know, I just grew up in a neighborhood with like a few kids and like we kind of had to make do with what like features we had around us. And it's like I can remember like the town dumped sand and salt one year like on the corner between two streets and like in like a little lot, and like that just became like got added to over time. And it's like we were able to use this giant dirt mound that the neighborhood made, and like we made like a giant like sand tabletop out of it, and that was like our hit for the summer. And like we would always go to that spot and like sit on it. So I've always really appreciated and like enjoyed like that kind of freeform street style of
for sure. Yeah, that's a good point that you touched on too, is that I feel like that street style is a lot more accessible than like, you know, some parks around us. Like when I was growing up, I didn't really have a lot of parks near me, and we go to like the train station and they had ledges there, or we'd find rails around, and you know, back when you didn't have a license, you couldn't go to Skater's Edge. So you know what I mean, that was more of like a weekend thing. So you'd kind of find, you know, what you could ride locally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes you get creative.
Makes you get creative. Exactly.
And I just love the creativity like about every approach that you could take in that kind of aspect. Like I guess to, you know, transfer it is I like the 86.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And I see the the setup on it. Tell us a little bit about that, because they're kind of rare.
Yeah,
we don't
they're
we don't
pretty
really
rare.
see them at all
I
in the
was looking
wild.
for one for so long. So even before I got into it, like I've always had like a fascination with them. My dad actually was the one who really got me into them. Like
Yeah.
when he was like around my age, he had like 3 of them, not at the same time, but he had 2 coupes and a hatch.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd always tell me about how he said it was one of like his best cars. It was fun, it was economical, it was just a great all around car. So I really liked the styling of it. I just felt like it was a car that I could connect to with my dad, and I was looking for one for a while. I was looking for one when I had my E36, because I had an E36 at the
Nice.
time. But I found this one on Facebook, and this one was cool. Has kind of a cool story. So this one I actually picked up in upstate New York. It was actually a COVID purchase, and I picked it up, and I got it from this old guy who was super cool.
Perfect.
He was actually a Toyota tech back in the 80s, believe it or not. And originally that car was a Florida car, and he owned it for majority of its life. And he went down and picked it up, and it was super clean, and he owned it since. And when I got it, it was bone stock, and super, super clean, having been a Florida car.
Yeah.
So I went up with my buddy Justin Noun. Shout out Justin Noun.
Jay Noun.
Jay Noun. We went there, picked it up, and I drove that home. And
Yeah, you drove it home.
No, so we put it on the trailer.
Oh,
and
okay.
We brought it home.
Yeah.
I love that story. I love hearing when somebody finds a nice car under
I was
those
so
circumstances,
lucky,
man.
dude. It was so clean, like nothing done to it. Like I think it just had wheels and that's it.
It's funny you say the COVID purchase, because I actually I got a 328 IS as
sick.
a COVID purchase, and I was looking for a good one for a while. And you know how the Beamer market can kind of be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like kind of like the cheaper ones can kind of be a little beat, a little neglected. Somebody might
Right.
not know what it is. And a couple of my buddies, they had left my house to go to the gas station for some smokes or whatever, and they called me while they were at the gas station down the road from my house, and like, dude, we found one for you. They found this old auto body guy who bought it off of an auction because it was in an accident, and he rebuilt like the whole side, changed the door, color matched it, changed the fenders, did like, the front suspension was blowing out from the pull and everything. And he was like, my wife hates me having this thing, like a 5-speed 328 IS. I'm like 60 something years old. I'm going to get a ticket or whatever. Like it's too quick for me, or, it's too much of a little hot car. And I got it off of him, and it was like, I got it, and it was unmolested. Like perfect. So like when I hear somebody else
That's
like
awesome.
like
That's
hitting
so
that
cool.
score, like, I mean, not for nothing, after watching what you went through with that 240 you bought, and to like get your 240 to where it is, like I feel like fortunate for you that you were able to get a car like that.
Absolutely,
where you didn't have to, like, let's say, unfuck it.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a good appreciation. It doesn't always happen these days. So
no, I was extremely lucky and fortunate to get one, because I was like, I don't know if I wanted to drive up there to go get it. It was kind of far for me at the time, and I was going back and forth, and I was like, you know what, like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna have an opportunity to get one this clean for this price. And I just took the chance, and we went up to go pick it up.
How far of a drive?
It was at least 5 hours. It was, so I think
Oh, okay.
it was
That's up
Auburn.
there.
It was Auburn, New York. So
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like maybe 40 minutes from the Canadian border.
Okay.
It was up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was kind of far, but no, not
Steal,
too bad.
though.
Yeah, it was a steal for sure.
So
for sure.
I'm kind of familiar with the 86s. I've ridden in Ralphie. Ralphie's nice
absolutely.
one, the beams and everything like that. So I'm a little familiar with the chassis and the car a little bit, but like, tell me a little bit about like, what is it? I know it's like, is it the 4 AGE, the 4-cylinder, 5-speed? What's the deal?
That's the thing. So mine is actually an SR5 car.
Okay.
So
Okay. That's nice.
so it's super basic. It's the most basic trim that you can get for these cars. There's drum brakes in the rear. It's carbureted.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's single cam. Like, it's super basic. I didn't really care about that at the time. Still don't, because I really cared more about the bones of the car.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? I knew that I was going to take this car and just take it to the next level for myself, because I've always wanted something that I could go and work on and build something and be proud of it. Because coming from a E36, I never really, I'm super green to working on cars and everything. You know what I mean? And when it came to that car, I've only done like coilovers and like bucket seat and like super simple stuff. And this one, it was just the bolt-ons, you know what I mean? Which is cool. But this one I wanted to just take to the next level for myself and just show what I can do for myself. And right away when I got it, it was auto too. So I ripped that out, found a T50 manual transmission on Facebook. Luckily, I got a good deal on it. And then I just started just to go into it. And it's so funny because at first I was super scared. You know what I mean? Doing it on my own. And
Yeah.
like, I was like, what if I pull this all apart?
Yeah, the fear of like ripping something off
And
then
it doesn't drive ever again.
Yeah.
It just sits.
Yeah,
You
like,
know what I mean?
I know
Like,
exactly what you mean.
or it's even like breaking an interior piece and then being like, oh my God, I
oh
have
my
to
God. You
find
can't-
this.
Yeah, like that's a huge thing too, is like you can't find things for like this car.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like when you do, people ask a lot of money.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, they have that tax.
Honestly, I'm trying to think of if I've seen another coupe, like a 86 coupe.
I know
Yep.
Ralphie has one.
Yeah, Ralphie has one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, why do I think he has a hatch?
No, that's his. He has.
He
He just
have
bought
one?
the hatch.
Okay, yeah, he has one as well. So he has two.
Okay, yeah.
And
All
then
right.
My buddy Tim Kennedy has that blue one. I don't know if you've seen
okay.
his as well.
Oh, yeah.
He's been helping me out a ton with mine.
Joggling
So
my brain
shout out
right
Tim
now.
too. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I just, you know, when I started, I was scared to even do like a valve cover gasket on my BMW.
Mm.
And I just, you know, went in, and my buddy Justin again, he really helped me out, and he was like, you know, there's nothing you can do that can't be fixed. It's just nuts and bolts.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you look at it that way, that fear just kind of goes away.
That's
and
what
then
brought-
you just start doing it. And then that was like the craziest feeling ever when like I ripped that out, put the manual transmission in. I did it in a weekend too. And I started up and I drove down the street. It was like the best like euphoric feeling. Like,
Oh,
you
for
could ever-
sure.
Like it was crazy. Like I felt like I just did this like huge thing.
Just conquered the world.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
literally
No, I
so
get that
I
feeling.
got it running, and then I took it out. I think it was like 12:30, 1 a.m. And I'm driving on the street like screaming. I'm like, woohoo, like this is ridiculous. And people are like, what is going on? But I was just over the moon.
Yeah.
That happened.
That's awesome, man.
But so that lasted a while. Then one day I was driving home from work because I daily drive it here and there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then one day I still kind of don't know what happened, but it just free revved to limiter on its own. I was at a red light, it turned green, and all of a sudden I do first gear, second gear, and then it just free revs on its own. So I'm like, did the throttle get stuck?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a vacuum leak.
Yeah.
And then I parked it, and then it never ran again.
Wow.
So
What?
I don't know what happened.
So like when it free revved, what happened when it free revved? Did it shut off on its own?
No, it would just hit limiter. So then I shut it off and I coasted into a parking lot that was kind of down the street, luckily. And I was like, okay. So I went out, checked the throttle, checked if there was any vacuum leaks. Everything looked okay. So then I turned it on again, and then again, as soon as it turned on, right to limiter.
That's so weird.
I don't know what it was.
That's wild.
I have no idea. So that happened. So I pulled that out, and then my goal was to kind of I knew I wanted to do a swap, but no one ever expects to do a swap so soon.
Yeah.
Like my goal was to get an engine while the car's running,
Yep.
get all the parts ready. That
Mhm.
way the car
Mhm.
is down for as least time as
Yeah.
Yeah.
possible.
Yep.
Slowly build it over time and just
Exactly.
have a drop-in motor ready to go.
And I feel like that just never happens. You
Yep.
know what I mean? You always start building a car as soon as it blows up.
Mhm.
So, I tossed around a lot of ideas for a swap for this car. I know the big thing for these right now is like the Beams engine, and that would have been cool, but it just because it kind of really wasn't in my budget at the time. I had just gotten like an HKS exhaust. I had my T50 transmission that actually shares the same transmission with the GTS as well. The only difference is the bell housing. So I had a lot of parts that I could integrate into this swap. So what we're looking at right now, I actually picked up recently a silver top 20 valve 4AG engine. We never got these. This was imported from Japan. This
Nice.
one actually came from JDM Orlando.
Nice.
I ended up picking this one up in New York, though, in Brooklyn, because the guy was going to put it in his MR2, but I guess he was just not that confident in the swap. So
Yeah.
I got it pretty cheap.
Yeah.
So that's what I ended up going with because I could use my exhaust still. The engine mounts to to the engine itself is the same thing as the 4AC that came in my car.
Mm-hmm.
So the engine mounts I could still use, the transmission I could still use.
Nice.
There are a lot of parts that I could still use. So it
Nice.
was just like what was most cost effective.
Definitely.
And you know, I kind of wanted to keep it kind of like that
Yeah.
purist kind of thing too.
I definitely think that there's a time and a place for certain chassis and certain conditions to do a swap,
Yeah.
to, you know, go off the rails and throw something a little bit outlandish or whatever. But then, like you say, the purist deal, there's a certain kind of car where it's, not to say it's sacrilegious, but it's kind of like, do you really have to do that?
Exactly.
And it's just, it's more, it's kind of like, you know, keeping, you know, circles with circles and squares with squares.
For sure.
You know, like keep the 86 vibe, the 86
Exactly.
vibe, and don't try to fuck with it.
That's
too much.
one thing too that I fell in love with the car. Is like, yeah, it looks cool, it's nostalgic, it's 80s, but even with it being like, I think the 4AC put out maybe 70 horsepower, but man, that car drive so good. It handled so well. It's so fun on corners. It literally just feels like a street legal golf cart. It just drives so cool. So I didn't want to take away from that. I just wanted to keep it like is the best that it could be.
I really you know, the 70 horsepower, fun car to drive, really good handling and everything like that. I always really love like the momentum driving cars where it's like you're not really, you know, you don't have a shit ton of power, so you don't have like that power to get yourself into trouble on the stretches. And so it's like you kind of never really have to brake too much. You're kind of coasting through the corners, using the grip of the car to like float around the back roads and everything like that. So like I really do, I get where you're coming from on that.
It's like a car, like you can get so carried away like overbuilding something, and then you just kind of like by the time you're done with it, it's almost like unrecognizable.
Yeah, and it's almost like you know, I threw X amount of power in the car, and how often are you going to use it?
Exactly.
Or something like that.
Exactly. I can use 100% of the power of this car when it's done. And, you know, if I were to go somewhere else, like you're never going to use that high horsepower car.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Everyone's always chasing that number, but you know, keeping it down to earth, it's a lot better.
I tell people, I'm like, yo, it's so easy to break the law with 200 horsepower.
Yeah.
Like 200 horsepower in a car, like getting reckless on the street, like you break that. Like you're breaking laws so fast. So it's like, what's the point of the 500 horsepower? But it's like, I like having a 210 horsepower car where you just mat it, go through the first 3 gears, and you're just like, all right, I've had my fun. Like I just wrung the car out, and I'm not like going too off the rails.
I've always just like enjoyed driving it as a street car too. Like that's another thing too, is like I'm not really trying to, you know, build something to be like a drift car. Like I've been asked before, that would be really cool, but like I just always wanted to keep it. Yeah, it's very clean for like the first point. But like I've always said that I just wanted to have this just to be like an ice cream getter in the summer.
Yeah.
Just take my girl out.
Yeah, definitely.
Just go cruise and just enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Like I saw that, you know, you had the bike on it. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
What better way to like spend a day off than driving your cool car to the cool biking spot?
Yep.
And then like after you have a badass day, as long as you know, take a big spill and your legs hurt and you got to drive stick on the way home or nothing like that. Yeah. But like, you know, as long as you have like a relatively okay day, then it's like, dude, I'm getting in my fucking fun car after riding my bike all day, and I'm going to have a nice drive home. Oh, I'm going to take this back road home. Like I know, like, I don't know where you're from too much, like the area you're in, but like our area where we grew up, the town we grew up in, endless amounts of back roads with like so many different vibes. You know, you got like some tight curvier ones that kind of feel like a forest road area, but then, you know, you got some like more wide open 2-lane, you know, like main state roads where it's, you know, like a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, really nice and flowy and everything like that, more wide. And then you also kind of have like some of the more stretches that go between the states where it's like it's a main byway, and it's like it's not a highway, but it's like a big speed limit, big long stretches where like you could wind out, you know, any amount of horsepower car you had. You know, like my older brother and his friends talking about you know, like some of the car, you know, where how fast they'd go on these roads. So it's like, you know, we had the option of so many different roads growing up, so it's like nice to kind of, you know, like, oh, I'm going to take this way home. And it's almost like an experience in and of itself because of the car you have.
Absolutely.
To go home.
Like I daily drive a Tacoma, and that car is great. You know, it's been like a Swiss Army knife for me. Like I just have it geared towards like my hobbies and adventures and everything like that. But it's just a car. It's just normal traffic. You know what I mean? Where the Corolla, that's a car that like you want to drive. You know what I mean? Like you just want to go and take that out for a drive, just to nowhere, just take it for a loop and come back and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what was after too. Just something that like is a pleasure to drive.
Yeah. And I get the sense that having a streetable car that's registered and able to take out is a good high priority for you.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
But word. So I think we covered your car good enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let's take us through a day of the life of Nick Lick.
So recently, I'm just like a huge bookworm right now. Recently, I enrolled in a trade school program, and I'm going for my new career in HVAC. So that I do weekly on my time off when I'm not studying.
So this is a new career path for you.
Exactly, this is a new career path for me. It kind of I've always been interested in this career path, but I never really, I was always scared to, take that jump to, start something new. Cause sometimes like, I feel like a lot of people can relate to this topic about feeling kind of stuck in their normal routine.
Mhm.
You get your steady check, you're comfortable, you work your 9 to 5 and you go home. You know what I mean? You get a check at the end of the week. And then you always lust for, something new, something better that'll, change your life. But you might feel like you're stuck where you are.
Mhm.
And that's kind of where I felt for a long time. My background is, I've done a lot of odd jobs before. I've worked at pizza shops. I've did a little bit of construction with my dad.
I feel you.
But recently, the latest job that I worked with was a GMC store. And I worked there for 5 years in this GMC store in the parts department. And that's kind of where I was at. I started from the bottom there, started as a parts driver, worked my way to like a counter person, and then worked my way up to like an assistant parts manager. And that was fine and all, but for a while, like years, like maybe like a few years, I've just felt kind of maxed out. My potential is maxed out. It felt kind of boring, and I was always looking for something that actually like excited me. And recently, we got bought out by like a corporate company, which is like huge. They have hundreds of stores nationwide, some overseas as well. And this past November, like 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, they brought in all like the big wigs to the store and were like,
This is at the GM place.
this is at the GMC
Okay,
place. And they told us that they're going to sell the store.
Nice.
No.
Like close it down.
Of course.
So everybody, like right before the holidays, right before Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of that,
the most corporate thing ever.
the most corporate thing ever. And I really just took that as a wake-up call. You know what I
Definitely.
mean? Like working in like that field, you're more than you're just a number to them. You know what I mean? Like I've always wanted to be something that like I could work for myself and can be proud of. And in that setting, you're not really going to see that
Yeah.
for the most part.
Unless
you
you
know?
somehow owned a franchise or like were
Yeah.
in charge of it or, to some degree.
So I've always been interested in the HVAC field, and I was like, well, what's a better time than now than just take the jump, just get into the unknown, and just see what you can do. Like I've always been scared, like going into something new and being like, what if I fail? You know what I mean? Like, what if I'm not cut out for it? Like I'm a big what if guy, just because
Same.
I'm an anxious person.
Yup.
No, I get that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Overthinking everything.
Absolutely.
So I just like
Overthinkers.
realized that life's too short. Like you don't know what your life's going to be in like the next few years. You know what I mean? And I just decided just to take that jump into a new field that I have no experience in, super green, and I decided to go and do that. So I've been doing that recently, and it's been really cool. It's been really refreshing and learning, and that's a field that I think it's really interesting just because it's a little bit of everything. You do
Mhm.
a little bit of plumbing, electrical work. And it's been very exciting and rewarding so far for me. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I can really relate to what you just did because last year I was like we were talking about it a little bit before the podcast has started. We kind of started to crack open into this conversation, but we were like, hey, we got to pause this.
Yep.
Let's get the pod rolling, and then we'll roll back into this topic
Yep.
right now. So it's a perfect time. But I was an electrician for a while,
Yep.
and COVID hit, and like you said, you take that as like life's almost throwing you a bone to reevaluate and get in and take a different avenue and try something else. And my grandfather, greatest man I know,
Yep.
a lot of wisdom, raised a beautiful family with like a bunch of us grandchildren, everything like that. And the one thing he always told me was like, Bren, you're still young. I wish then when I was at your age, I didn't have 5 kids and I didn't have that overhang to take a step and branch out a little into something different after I got out of the Coast Guard instead of just going into the the closest high paying job that I kind of knew what I was doing,
Yeah.
and just went into that. And, he did that for 50, 60 years. And he was always saying, like, while you're young, take the opportunity that you can, while you're young and you don't have the family overhang and you don't have like the more gravity of as you grow up and you need to pay for a house or whatever. He's like, figure out what you want to do, take your chances. So, COVID, I was like, let me reevaluate. And like you said, you work the odd jobs for 3 or 4 years and everything like that. And, just in last fall, I decided to go to enroll in a trade school as well.
Cool.
Yeah. I went and decided to do machinist.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and it was like the same thing you're saying. You do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You're working with your hands, with the machining, there's a little bit of engineering and mathematics involved to it.
Yep.
And, it's kind of just like manipulating the world around you and to build a physical thing. So I can definitely appreciate your going into that aspect of things.
Yeah, your grandfather was a smart man. But like also too, age is something that you shouldn't be like a factor in like you wanting to start something new, because, you're never too old. In my trade school class, there's a kid who's the youngest, he's 18, and there's a guy who's 43. You know what I mean? And he's got his family, he's got everything like that. And he's taking the time to, to learn something new as well. And I thought that was really cool. Yeah, you get that kind of like range.
Yeah, it's funny you say the age range. We had the same thing in my class. It was through a college, and we had the youngest girl. She was 19.
Yep.
And her dad owned like a machine shop, and kind of she saw what it was about, and kind of was like, hey, like sitting in a desk isn't for me. I never thought working with my hands would be for me either. So let me go into the schooling for it. So she's 19. And then this guy that just got hired at my company with me that I actually went to school with, he's 58 years old, and he was kind of in the field a little bit, but never really was like getting into it. It was more of like an assembly, quality control, I think, aspect of things, not really the actual machining and making the parts. And like, I was honestly really inspired by him. And then another older woman who's, I think, maybe like 53 that were in the class.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Seeing them dive into the books every day and like going to class, doing the same projects as me. And then there's another guy in my class who was like 37, 38.
Yep.
He was in prison down in Texas for a while, came back up here with family, and he's trying to get his life back on track, and he's trying to make up for lost time. And it's like this class is just like 14 of us at all different walks of life.
Yeah.
Super
diverse.
Yeah, super diverse, all different people. And it's just like seeing everybody, like you said, the age isn't we're all at the same place. We're all at the same base of just trying something new, learning something. And it's like, honestly, one of the best environments I found myself in.
Yeah,
in like the
really
last few years.
For sure. It's very supportive. Everyone's helping each other out.
So what's the school schedule like a little bit? Like what are the classes laying out like?
So it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's 8 to 3 every week. And it's kind of a high paced course.
Definitely.
It's 13 weeks, which is really cool. But it's you got to be with it, and you have to study, and you got to do your thing. But like at first, like you go in, and then it's study for like the EPA 608 test. So you go in there and you study in that, and then we took that test, and you get your certification if you pass, which I did. And then after the whole EPA thing is done, that's like 3-4 weeks. Then they start splitting the class up. So half the class goes and gets into like the furnaces, and then the other half goes into like refrigerant recovery. And then after a little bit, we switch. We get a midterm. We learn a few other things, and then we have a final. So I mean, it moves pretty fast. We're already in like week 7 of the 13.
So my program was 19 weeks, and it was a similar thing, very fast paced. And as the classes went on, I could kind of tell like they threw a lot at you, and it was kind of up to you to make what you could of it.
Exactly.
And to some people like were really grasping on the manual machining and worrying about, the lathes and the turning part of it. And then like see someone like me, like I really felt at home on bridge ports and milling machines. So that's what I leaned into.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, the instructors kind of let us do our thing. And then I'd say around week 10 or 11, kind of were like, hey man, you've been on mills for 10 weeks. Like you do need to go on the lathe. You do need to iron that out and get your skills honed on that. So it sounds like it's kind of a similar
very
approach
similar
to things. So I really appreciate tech programs like this.
Yeah.
I think more, I don't know how it is in your field 100%, but there is an age discrepancy.
Yep.
Like in my shop, I'm the young, there's me, I'm 26. There's another kid who's 28, and then there's a guy who's 29. But then the next closest guy in age is our foreman at 38. And then the next guy after that is like 54. And then it's like a majority of the high end guys, 90% of that shop sitting in that like 50 plus range.
Yep.
And it's, what are you going to do when these guys run into retirement? You
Exactly.
know, I feel like it's a really good area for, guys like us, that are just getting into it, eager to learn, eager to make a lot of it. Cause, it's really accepting. It's an area where they're really eager to get younger people into it.
Yeah, for sure.
And really kind of get hands on.
You can even see like the excitement in like the instructors, and you can tell that they really love what they do. You know what I mean? And it translates, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of my instructors, the passion they had, like I remember the wrap up email, the goodbye email to us in the little ceremony we had, like it kind of had like that proud dad vibe, he was throwing out there. He's like, you can do anything you want on this trade. Like I've watched you guys grow for 19 weeks and learn what you could. And it's just like, it's translated to other parts of my life in terms of like growth, perspective, and, maybe taking a different look at other problems I've had in the past.
Absolutely. For sure. So that's why I think like the biggest thing that like anyone could take away from this is just don't be scared to get into something new, take the chances and see what's out there, because you're never going to know if you're going to fail until you go and try it. Because if you do fail, at least, you tried and you gave it your all, and there is no doubt in your mind. You know what I mean? And then if you do fail, it's not the end of the world. Yeah. There's always different outlets. You know what I mean? But there's always new things out there to learn. And, I think that's really cool.
One thing for me is I understand like jumping to new career path and getting over the fear and stuff. But what would you say to someone that has to have a stable income as well as jumping to a new career? How did you manage this?
So at least talking from my course as well, they also offer night courses as well too. I don't know if everywhere is different or similar, but there are courses for guys who, have that 9 to 5, still have to support their family, can't just not work. They do have night class options for, guys that, are in that position as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I even added on to that a little bit. Like when I took my electrical courses in Rhode Island, as you go through, I'm not sure if it's similar for HVAC setups, but for electrical, you join a year of schooling with a year of work, and it's 4 years worth. Yeah. And for me, it was Tuesdays and Wednesdays, or Mondays and Wednesdays, or Tuesdays and Thursdays, and you'd go 6 to 9:30 night courses. And then, you'd take your test at the end of the year for the electrical. So I was still working full-time electrical, and it's very normal in the electrical field for you to work full-time as an electrician, get your working hours accrued through the state, whatever state you're in, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, they're all a little bit different. And then, you're accruing your work hours and your schooling hours at the same time. So they kind of coincide. So you are working, and like, I won't lie, like, it's a hustle. It's a struggle.
It is.
Like, you really are kind of doing that whole, like, I kind of find myself relating to some of my friends who did a 4-year degree, like you or Lewis, do that 4-year engineering degree, where it's like, you're not working, you don't have a full-time job, but like you're dumping 40 hours a week into, between classes and studying and your book work. Like you're like, we are having to dump that same amount of time, like our class load's lower, but like we're working along with it and we're trying to apply what we're learning in the classroom at work and everything. So it's like, it's a grind, it's
absolutely.
You can't really like, I like to think that some people, and they try to escape the grind or find shortcuts to it. But if there's one thing I've learned as I've gotten older and like in my adult life and you mature more, it's like, dude, you can only shortcut so much.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, like you just got to put the axe to the grindstone and just kind of deal with it. Like the long days, like going from, like working and then going home and having to, dive into the books and study and like knowing like, you might have an iffy day at work or an iffy day in class, but then, like, oh, I have a test this Friday and I'm not solid on this subject matter and I have to go home and tackle that to make sure I'm good for Friday. Because like ultimately, like you have to you get out what you put in. So if you're not putting that effort in to the schoolwork or the workplace, you don't get the payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't get that overall reward and growth that you're looking to do.
Right. Yeah, school is a huge commitment, and it's like you said, you get what you put into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
for sure.
Like I had some students in my class, in my cohort that was going through that. Like, when it came time to get a good job or like to get a job at the end of it and apply to these machine shops or whatever it was, like some of us are like, I landed exactly what I wanted through because I interned with the company and everything like that. And you could tell some other people are like, well, I wish I could have landed that. And I'm like, well, you could have. I'm not in your shoes. I don't know what you did or what you didn't do. I don't know what opportunities were presented to you, but if you were presented with an opportunity, you could have taken it and you would be in a similar position.
Yeah, everyone in that program starts in the same position and gets the same opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a good question. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So for me, when I was going through my master's program for
Yeah.
engineering, I was working full time as an engineer, pursuing that master's program at night.
Yep.
Obviously, post graduation of master's, it's staying at the company, getting promoted,
Right.
all that stuff. So for you going through this program post graduation, what are your plans?
I guess, yeah, find a job in the field. I'm probably gonna lean more towards the commercial side.
Yeah.
But you know, just starting out as apprentice and getting my foot through the door. I mean, I'd take anything, residential work, you know, maybe union, but just trying to get a job as soon as possible and just get in there as quick as I can.
Do you see yourself as a entrepreneur, creating your own company, being on your own in the future?
I'd like to, yeah, for sure. My dad really pushed me to have that mentality because he says the best thing that you can do for yourself is, you know, create your own business. You know, so I'd like to get in, learn as much as I can, much as possible, and eventually, you know, open up my own thing one day.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
I think the number one thing you can look for in a good trade job, and you know, I bounced between a couple electrical shops, and you know, I interned at a couple different machine shops, and one of the cool things I really appreciate about the internships is like you're kind of given a different perspective and almost a different treatment when you're in those positions because you come in as an intern. So like the for instance, the company I work for now, American Tool, I got to work and talk with their owner like pretty hand in hand. I wasn't just a guy going in for an application,
Right.
trying to get the job. Like he had me for 6-7 weeks and I was there for 3 days a week, each week working for him, not getting paid. And I really learned through him, like, the best thing you can look for is a good shop, you know, whether it be HVAC. Look for an attentive owner who's not just an owner, but is an owner operator who knows the business, knows the trade, knows what his guys are going through, and is also eager to grow and expand his trade. You know, like take a guy like you on that's eager, throw the book at you, like you take as much as you can in because that's good for you, and then it's good for him. And it's kind of like a, you know, I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back.
Right,
like the guy I'm working for right now, like he's like begging me to learn more so he can throw more money at me.
Right.
Because he's like, that'll make you happy. That'll keep you happy. And that'll mean I have a good machinist in my shop. And it's the same thing. It's like, I'll have a good HVAC tech in my shop. And that's just, I love being in a production based field where it's like, if you produce, it's rewarded.
Exactly. For sure. I feel like it really comes down to like, if they're willing to take you on, because a lot of people, they're kind of, you know, they want that guy that has more experience in that field because they know that you're in there to get as much experience as you can to maybe move on in that next step in your life. So some people aren't willing to take you on at first. So, I mean, I'll just take on what I can get for sure.
So what about the, you know, this is me, you know, digging into a little bit the old electrical side of me is what do you enjoy about the commercial work? Because I know for me in the commercial work, I liked working with like the MC, the metal, like the steel framing. You know, residential, you're drilling through wood. You're working in roughed out houses. It's a little bit of a dirtier, rougher environment. So I'm just curious, what makes you go forward to that?
I honestly don't even know yet, just because I'm not in the field at the moment. I just know that, you know, there's more stability in there. You're not dealing with clients and customers face to face as much. Homeowners, you know what I mean? So it's more structured. And it's more up there on like kind of like the union kind of side. You know what I mean? More industrial buildings and stuff like that. Bigger AC units, bigger furnaces, and so on.
I definitely say it's more of like a professional aspect of things. You know, when you have to work with homeowners, you know, you're going into somebody's home, and like, you know, Adrian we had on last episode, you know, he'd be able to tell you a decent bit about, you know, the pains and the ins and outs of having to go into somebody's apartment or something like that.
You should talk to him about it.
Definitely. No, definitely do. Adrian, he's a good HVAC guy. He knows a lot and he's seen a lot too. And you know, for how young he is and in the trade, he definitely is rumbled and tumbled with the best of them. So
because I know it's not just all sunshine and roses. You know what I mean? Everything has their ups and downs.
Nothing is, you know, nothing is. Everything's a little difficult when the nitty gritty comes down to it.
Exactly, for sure.
So you mentioned your dad a few times.
Yeah.
Is he a motivating person to you?
For sure. He's like, you know, I guess, you know, kind of cliche, but he's like my hero. Like every, you know, life decision or like any questions that I have, like I always rely on like, you know, what he says. And I really listen to him because he has a lot of experience, you know what I mean?
What does he do for work?
So my dad, he has his own shed company, and he started that from like nothing. So a little bit on my backstory on my dad. So my dad, he came. My family's originally from Brazil, and my dad came to America, I think when he was like 23, 24, with like almost no help. You know what I mean? He started in the pizza shop kind of industry. He actually delivered pizzas in the 8-6, which is kind of funny to think about.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Oh my goodness.
So it's one of his first cars here. He had one of those, and he liked Cressidas as well, but like 8-6s were like his car. But I'm extremely proud of him because like he built himself up and, you know, has his own business, and he's very successful in it. You know what I mean? So I always take like business advice from him, and really listen, because, you know, he's been through it for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense why you look up to him so much.
Exactly.
He had it rough.
Shed company?
Yeah,
outdoor
shed
sheds?
Yeah.
Man, my girl and I, our Christmas present to each other was going to be a new outdoor storage shed.
Oh, cool.
So you know what? Might have to give him a ring a ding ding.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? That's awesome.
Sure.
And if he's anything like you, or you're anything like him, I can tell I'll be getting some quality work.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
That's all. So is it like custom builds that he does, or kind of like all, because that sounds pretty interesting.
So
to me.
he's like a subcontractor for like Home Depot and Lowe's as well. So he goes in and he can either transport sheds, or he puts up. A lot of the times they're like prefab as well.
Yeah.
So if you've ever looked in, like if you've ever gone to Home Depot or Lowe's and you've seen kind of those sheds that are in the lot, they're very similar to those.
Okay.
So he has like his own subcontracting company, and he has a couple different crews that work under him as well.
Okay.
So he's got a good thing going.
So it sounds like he's a few different avenues and ways about that,
exactly.
you know, like he services.
For sure.
Industry.
Yeah, and he's been doing that for like 30 plus years.
Dude, that's got you know, now that you think about it, that's got to be, you know, that in and of itself being its own industry. I mean, like there's a lot of nice sheds out in the backyard.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
like, I mean, I know it because we paid a contractor to have like a nice shed built and put up, and like, yeah, I could totally see somebody having to like run their own deal. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
And he goes all over New England. He travels sometimes too. He goes up to Vermont and Maine, a lot of Rhode Island. Like he gets around for sure.
That's so cool. Does he bring the materials to the house, builds it, or does he build the shed and then delivers the shed?
No, so he builds on spot.
Okay,
for sure. So I mean, yeah, you could. So he can transport sheds too as well, but when he builds them on the spot.
Gotcha.
And sometimes he does like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
you're
off,
good,
but sometimes he does like 2 or 3 a day. You know, sometimes like I worked with him too in his company, and sometimes you do like a medium or like 2 smalls, or you know, it really differs. But yeah, he does a few a day.
The transport thing, that's what I was going to cue on real quick, is like, because, you know, we're from out in Gloucester, and there's some nice hand built sheds, and, you know, people buy the house, they don't need that shed, and they'll put it up for sale, or they'll put it up, like for recently, somebody in my neighborhood put a shed up for free if you would come and pick it up.
Exactly.
If you'd come and pick up the shed, move it off their property, you take it. And one of my good friends' fathers, he bought the shed, got it because he knew he could flip it. Like he knew the amount it would cost him to take the shed for free and transport it would be worth it for him. Yeah. So like, all right,
get a
cool.
good return out
cool. I'm just a little connection there. Full circle deal right there. That's pretty cool.
Awesome.
I like that. Definitely.
Sure.
So we mentioned your dad.
Yes.
Besides him, what's one thing you couldn't live your life without?
Oh, that's a pretty loaded question.
Whether it be, don't overthink it, your girl, your Tacoma, Date 6.
No, those are just things. But yeah, I definitely, good point. My girlfriend for sure. Like she's been with me through, you know, hard times and good times, and she's really been like my rock for sure. So yeah, I'd say her.
I feel that.
Shout out Montana.
Hell yeah.
She's been super supportive in your new journey and everything.
For sure, yeah.
Nice.
Helped me study, you know.
Okay.
She's really been awesome.
That was another big thing, you know, like the whole growing up, growth of change and everything, and like having a good life partner, that in and of itself I think is such a big aspect of growth that you really don't know how to do it until you're with that person.
Exactly.
And you're working together to, you know, live a life side by side. And like for me, it was kind of like not learning to not be selfish, but not selfish in the sense of like greediness, but, you know, kind of trying to take their thought process into my decisions, and, you know, how is this decision going to affect, you know, their life and, you know, their well-being and their career and their hobbies. And I think that that's one of the, you know, for some people it'll happen and it's something they want in life. For other people, I know, you know, they're not interested in it at the time, But I think that's like a big spot of growth that I think everybody, goes through at some point in time. And it's a big, you're a completely different person, at the end of it, once you meet that person, it's
for sure. She's been a huge motivator for me too, because like I always like, as a guy, you have that pressure of like, being the provider and everything. And, every guy wants to go and give like their girl like the best life possible. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to provide for her, just give her the best life and comfort, not have to worry about money, and just, have good, steady income. So,
yeah,
for sure.
So you guys on your own right now? Are you still living at home?
No, so we're living at home. We're just saving up for a house, but
Same.
the market's pretty ridiculous right now.
Same,
but
man.
I just want to get my licenses, save up money. She got her new job as a tattoo artist too, so she's doing her own business as well.
Nice.
Yeah, which is really cool. Yeah,
Nice.
She's a tattoo artist.
Nice.
So we're both trying to build up our careers, saving that money, so then we can buy a house.
That's crazy. It sounds like like I see myself and you a lot right now. We're in the same deal. She just went from production pottery studio
cool.
Manager, doing that, but like a lot of that small business, not offering health insurance. We want to start a family, maternity leave, the whole 9 yards, and then also like earning potential to like save up and buy a house. So it's like she's going to do her thing, wrap up as being an art teacher, doing student teaching, everything right now. Your girl's doing the tattoo artist deal. You just went to school for the HVAC right now. I just went to school for the machinist deal.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty funny.
Crazy.
A lot of parallels running now between each other. So it's nice to see somebody else, kind of doing the same thing, and it kind of makes you feel like you're not alone. Exactly. There's a lot of people going through.
A lot of people are going through the same things. That's why I just want to touch on those points that I had mentioned before, because I can't be the only one.
Absolutely not, dude. Yep. No, and that's like part of the wanting to do this podcast was to like let other people know like what everyone's going through.
Exactly.
And kind of like I feel like one of the big things in today's world with social media is like we're all so much more connected with each other than we think, but also like people curate what you put on the social media, and it's like you don't see
that's what I hate about social media.
Like I'm not gonna go and like I'm a pretty transparent person, man. Like I'll be the first to tell anybody about the struggles I'm going through in my life, because I want people to recognize that they're just things that people go through. And it's like you curate what you see, or you curate what you put out there, and it's like you're seeing all the best highlights of that person's life and what's going well for them and what's going right every day. But you don't see like
the struggles.
Like, like for instance, like let's just make a bullshit story about the friggin' truck and the camper attachment. It's like you could have had a shit day that morning. You could have been dealing in the weather, fucking blundering around, dead miserable, cold as fuck, like just hating your life, but you throw that little pickup, nice little caption, and people are like, damn, that's badass. I want to do that. That's so easy.
Exactly.
But it's like, oh, I'm so cold right now. I'm miserable. I want to be at home in my house with my dog.
But it's for the gram.
Yeah, exactly. But it's for the gram. So it's like,
it's a double-edged sword. I completely get it for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
That was part of the deal of the pod. It's a little bit of transparency.
No, I love this idea. It's really cool.
And I don't know about how you feel about it. Jay now and Dan and Danny and everything like that. But it's like, to me, I feel like growing up and watching YouTube, you see a lot of other regions represented in terms of like, you have like the drifting scene or the BMX scene or like the snowboarding scene in Colorado. And it's just like, the more and more I'm growing up and getting into a lot more hobbies and taking the hiking thing more serious, going up to hiking events in the White Mountains, or, going to Lock City, going to Final Bout with LifeCall and everything that. I'm like, oh, to me, it seems like New England's got just as badass people around that the rest of the country has, but we're a little bit more, we're a little bit tighter. We're a little bit more closed doors, a little bit more private, maybe, a little bit more harshness to our side. So maybe we're not all putting it out there as much, but like, I really just wanted to promote a little bit of like people like you and from the area that, got the deal going on and have just as much cool shit going on, showing the personal growth and everything like that, the other regions in the country have going on too. So
sick. So one last question for me, and then maybe we can take a break or something.
Yeah, we'll take a little break and reconnect in a little bit.
So you mentioned your girl's a tattoo artist. Yeah. I just got to ask.
Yeah.
Is she doing the ink on you?
Yeah.
So now she is. We've been together 4 years now, and she's done like 4 or 5 on me. But she actually used to work with my tattoo artist, but now she has her own shop with a couple other girls too. But
cool,
she's been doing some on me too, and she's really good.
Is that how you met her? Through the tattoo artist?
No, we actually we met through Mary Lou's coffee.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
I was a regular. Then I
Nice.
slid in the DMs.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
That's a cool story.
That's nice. Nice little coffee shop.
We bonded over Title Fight, if you know Title Fight.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So we both listened to Title Fight. She posted something about Title Fight, and I was like, hey, I listened to Title Fight, and then it just clicked.
Love it. That's perfect.
Because I've always I'd go in there and I'd see her, and then I'd never had the courage to go and talk to her. So of course you DM nowadays, which is kind of sad, but that's
the reality.
It's the reality.
Hey man, it's the world we live in.
But yeah, through Mary Lou's coffee shop.
What's her art style? What's her tattoo?
She
record?
likes a lot of fine line black and gray.
Oh really?
Yeah, for
Dude,
sure.
My girl's, she just started getting tattooed in the last year. She started, and that's the only thing she wants to get is fine line.
Yeah.
Damn.
This is cool too if she's interested. It's an all girl shop too. She used to work at a different shop and it was a little bit of a different environment. So she joined them. And it's a lot more comfortable because sometimes girls are a little scared to get into a tattoo shop because a lot of them are kind of like the stereotypical. It's intimidating, and it's just a safe place for a lot of girls that can go and get tattooed. Guys can go too; they're welcome, but it's very curated for girls.
Yeah, it's for the girls.
It's for the girls, but it's really cool for sure.
That's awesome
for the girls
dude.
and Nick.
Exactly.
That's so cool. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a little intermission, and we'll come back with the IG questions and maybe some other off the wall questions that just whatever, some random stuff.
Sounds good.
All right. We're back for our question segment, so we'll see what we got, and then after these,
how did I do it last time? There we go. All right.
I haven't done that in years. Dude, that used to be my thing.
Wait, hold on. I got to ask the question for the listeners first from Speed Racer Bry. What's it like being from South Shore?
Honestly, I really like the South Shore area because it's especially where I live, it's like halfway point between Boston and halfway point between Cape, right on the water. So if you want to go into the city, that's cool. If you want to go fish at the canal, like I've been doing, it's right there too. I just think it's a cool hotspot, to be at.
Nice little centralized area.
It's in the sticks. It's next to the beaches. There's probably I don't know, five beaches, within 20, 25 minutes from me. So
plus Boston's 20 minutes probably too.
Exactly.
About how far out are you from the Buzzards Bay area and in that kind of location?
40 minutes.
40 minutes?
Yeah. And then same deal, 40 minutes ish from Boston.
Yeah. I used to, when I was an electrician, we did a lot of the marinas out there. And so I spent a lot of time going out into that area. Dude, it's beautiful.
Yeah. It's a cool area.
Really enjoy a lot of the coastal towns and communities out that way. So
exactly.
Definitely.
And going up to the mountains too. Sorry, not to cut you off, but going up north, it's not that far. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, you're halfway there.
New England's
where I am.
I love that.
I love
New England. Is so centralized. You get good oceans, some of the best beaches and coastline.
Yeah.
You get the mountains. You get 2 good cities, 3 good cities. You got Boston, Portland, Maine, Providence, Rhode Island, and it's they each scratch a little bit of a different itch.
Exactly.
So I honestly think given everything, it's one of the best places to live in the country.
Oh, I agree.
For sure. I was listening to a local podcast. It was the other day, and they were talking, or the guest was talking about growing up, he was always looking to move on and get away from the small town thing and get out of New England and all that stuff. And even for me, I was the same thing. But I feel the older you get, the more you realize how special New England really is.
Exactly.
It scratches so many itches, and it's I was talking to somebody, I don't know who I was talking to in the last week, but we were talking about settling down, buying a house, relocating, and I was like, it was last Sunday at brunch. I was talking to my buddy Mike's girlfriend, Emmy, and she's not from the area. I believe she's from Texas, lived in New York City, and then moved out into Providence with Mike. They got an apartment, and they were asking Steph and I about what were some aspects that we were looking for in a forever home. And I literally told her, I was like, I can't see myself really wanting to relocate to any other part of the country right now. And it's not because I have a closed in box or I don't want to just move for the sake of moving, but it's that I love the beach, so I could never feel landlocked. I love the mountains, so I'm always going to want to have that at an attainable ability. And I love just simple going out day trips to cool little locations. And I love history, and New England's got all of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even the seasons, everything.
Yeah,
it's just all there.
4 seasons, everything.
And you can do anything you want with I don't know, a 3-hour drive.
Exactly.
I want to shout out Speed Racer Bry for actually throwing out a pretty good normal question to start it off. This one didn't rock us too hard.
Yeah, I like that.
That wasn't how many margaritas does it take to get home,
or what RF frequencies fuck you up bad. So,
all right, from ZT, where's the 8.6 ?
It's in my garage right now, getting ready. I'm trying to put the engine in soon. It's all ready to go. I just need an extra hand and time with school and everything.
Yeah, ZT.
ZT, yeah.
Come help,
please. So yeah, that's where that is. Work in progress.
Okay. Another one from ZT. Let's see a backflip.
Yeah, so
you used to be able to backflip,
yeah,
right?
dude, that used to be my thing. Like, I'd even go to like local skate parks and backflip. Like,
really?
Yeah, dude, it was crazy.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's two things that like were my favorite things in BMX, and it was just like the bar spin. As soon as I learned that, I like tried to learn every variation, truck driver, 180 bar spin, do all that. And then the other one was just like way left field, just like backflip. Like, I remember I went to Skater's Edge and I would just try them in the foam pit and do it super sketchy. And then I tried it on one of the flyouts, and it was like
onto resi or just straight flyout.
Just straight flyout. And then,
Ballsy.
but I just did it like I had zero form. Like, I would just go like super straight pencil, like pull as hard as I can. Head like inches from coping.
Oh,
like that.
Like whipping that neck.
Yeah,
that kind of
yeah.
shit.
And just pull as hard as I can, no air, just head like inches from coping, and somehow land it. And then eventually, like, I got
the form got there.
The form got there, but dude, it was it was scary.
What is a little bit of the development of that form? Is it kind of like, because like we've all tried some bullshit ass version of like seeing what it's like to flip, or even just like flipping off a springboard onto a pool or something. Like, is it like, you tuck into it after like a delay to kind of get that rotation in after your head clears the coping? Like, what's the proper?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I haven't done one in years, but it's pretty straightforward. Like, it's one of the easiest tricks you can do in BMX, but it's also one of the scariest and riskiest if you mess up. But essentially, you want to like manual off of the lip, while having your kind of butt off of the back seat with straight arms. And then as your back wheel leaves the ramp, you kind of tuck into a ball. So you don't want to, a lot of people, they'll like kind of freak out midair and like, they'll do like a bar hump and kind of do something like awkward. But as long as like you keep that form, you look where you're going to go, it'll come around.
That's pretty badass, man. Cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely a random fact.
Yeah, random fact.
Shout out ZT.
I used to be the backflip kid.
Sleepy, from our last pod, favorite tattoo and why?
So my favorite tattoo is actually this hammerhead shark that I have on my thigh. It was my first tattoo that I got when I was 19, and I didn't really know what to get at the time. So one thing that they say to kind of help you get into tattoos, if you ever wanted to, is just kind of pick a style that you like and that you don't think you'll get kind of bored with. So I just picked a traditional style, and I like marine life, and I just think, honestly, I picked a hammerhead just because I think they're goofy looking.
Yeah.
So I got a traditional hammerhead shark on my thigh, and it's in color and it looks cool, and it held up till now. And I don't know, I just like the memory of it being my first tattoo.
Okay. And
usually people hate their first tattoos, but I like mine.
Yeah. So you stuck with the traditional theme for tattoos. Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Okay. I know that's what Sleepy has and Will and
they what's that, like Americana?
American traditional.
American traditional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Another one from Sleepy. Are we going to get loose on mountain bikes this year?
Absolutely. Dude, like this year for sure has been like a huge year for mountain biking for me. And this year was also the first year I went to Highland. And dude,
this was your first
This was my first year at Highland.
My God.
And it was so sick.
Yeah, we got to get you out more, man.
I can run cat's paw all day.
Yeah, that's a good trail.
I love that so much. It's actually kind of cool how I got into mountain biking too. So as everybody knows, I've been like a BMX kid forever.
Yep.
And my buddy Andy Whitcomb, he's been into mountain biking forever. So they were going to go to Thunder Mountain Bike Park, and they're like, dude, like, you ride BMX, you just come out, rent a bike, and see what you think. So I was like, of course, I'll do that. And I rented a full Scott Riley like downhill bike, and we went to Thunder, and I was like hooked. It was so sick. I think on the way home, I was looking up bikes.
So what bike do you have right now?
So right now I have a Specialized Status 140.
Okay.
And it's a cool like beginner bike. It has Fox shocks and everything.
Yep.
It's a mullet style. And for people who don't know what that means, it has 2 different size wheels. So so which is pretty cool. I guess it's like a take to like the 90s or whatever.
That's what I for my next bike, I want one. Right now, I just have 27. It
feels really cool because the front wheel is a 29-inch, and you kind of want that bigger wheel to, roll over obstacles, rocks, and everything. But then that back end with that smaller tire, it feels super like playful. You know what I mean? It feels lighter, it feels playful, and it's just a pleasure to ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a great beginner
Almost
bike.
kind of like the back end follows the front a little easier.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, it just kind of floats in.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's a really cool style.
With the rotational momentum of the 29-inch wheel,
Yeah.
it is unbelievably faster. I have a full 27 bike and a full 29 bike.
Yeah.
And the second I rode a 29er, I was like blown away by the speed of that bigger wheel. It's only what, an inch and a half more, but I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I
That's
think
a lot when
Sleepy
you're
had
talking
one
circles.
too at one point. Specialized status.
Yeah, he did
And
last year.
Yeah, and then he got into it something else.
Yep. Yeah, now he has a Common Sol Clash.
Sick.
So
This mountain
Yeah,
bike
so
thing
I
is
love
cool.
it. I even like after work like go and do trail riding, and then on the weekends usually I'll hit like a park.
Yeah.
Most likely Highland.
Yeah, we gotta link up way more this year.
For sure. I'd love to go to that trip that you had mentioned, but I'm in school full time, so I can't. But
yeah, it's tough.
we'll link up for sure.
Yep. From Steph Coffee. This is
that's my girlfriend upstairs.
What do you love most about your girl?
Just her unconditional love. Like she's like the biggest sweetheart, the biggest supporter. Like she's literally just like my best friend. Like she's always been there for me. And yeah, she's just like the greatest person for sure.
How long have you guys been together?
4 years. March 4th. So we're
oh
coming
wow,
up on 4 years.
Congrats, man.
Yeah,
Congrats,
thank you,
man.
thank
a couple
you.
days out.
Yep. So yep.
From Haley, this is my brother's girlfriend.
Okay.
How does he feel about Fords? I don't.
That's a cool question. So I mean, I'm not one of those people who like hate on brands or anything like that. Like if it's cool, I'll respect it.
Yeah.
But I did work for a GMC store for 5 years.
Okay.
So I've kind of gravitated more towards that. Like if I were to go from a mid-size to a full size, I'd probably go like a Sierra or something like that. But no, I don't knock Fords.
All right. Just a little bias to Chevy or GM.
I'll throw a little bit in on this. Like the electrical company I worked for, we had E250 work vans and we had GMC 3500 work vans.
Yeah.
And dude, like if they gave me an E250 work van to go like an hour and a half, 2 hours out to a marina on Buzzards Bay in the middle of the winter versus one of the Chevys, I was like questioning whether or not I was going to make it in that E250.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know. It might've just been the era of the 5.4 Tritons with the manifold leaks. I like GMs, man. I feel like they're more of a rock solid product.
Yeah.
Plow trucks, anything. Like all the work trucks I've dealt with, the GM product always felt a little more solid.
They're really nice.
Little stronger in the gas jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe not the 14 to 19, 1500 transmissions, but that's a different story.
Or the 6.2s. If you're going to get a Sierra, get the 5.3.
Everything's got their problems.
Yep. Another one from Haley. Is eggplant a fruit or a vegetable? Wrong answers only.
It's an emoji.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's wrong answers, it's a fruit. Because it's definitely a vegetable, I think.
I don't know.
I only know about the tomato toss up on this or like some of the other weird fruit vegetable
what do you think?
things.
Tomato is a vegetable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, technically it's a fruit, I think. I technically think like a tomato's a fruit. And with an eggplant, man, like I'm going to say eggplant's neither.
Whoa.
I think eggplant isn't a fruit or a vegetable.
I would put eggplant as a vegetable.
I would too.
But if it's wrong answer, it's fruit. Yeah.
All right, Haley, you're going to have to give us this answer next time. You see ya.
From Brengy.
Oh my God.
Who is this?
This is Nate Morin. One of my boys from high school. This guy's a wild card. Haven't seen him in a while. He's living down in Virginia with his wife, Hannah. Miss you, Nate. For Brengy, how did he match with my sister on Tinder? His sister Riley. Nate, you're gonna have to ask your sister that question. Nate, I find you incredibly attractive, so I just thought maybe if I
this is a question for you.
Yeah. So Brengy's my nickname, and part of this whole joke between me and him is like he took my moniker, like my nickname in the friend group is Brengy. It's his Instagram handle, it's his Xbox gamer tag, and he has my picture on a lot of his profiles, a picture of me that I sent in our group chat.
This is like the most insane trolling of all time.
Dude, he's like he messages me after every pod. Like he's probably the person I think that listens to us the most. Like
that's funny.
Like he loves the pod. Like he's always asking for me to get like some of our boys on. Like dude,
we'll have to bring him on just to hear about this troll.
If he's ever in the area again, we definitely should have him on, dude. He runs marathons. He's I believe he's a Norfolk County police officer. down there. Like he's doing some cool stuff. He spent a lot of time as a helicopter crewman in the Navy, so he's like flying helicopters in the Middle East and shit like that.
Mhm.
Like dude's done a lot of badass stuff. He's a
Sick.
go-getter. He does a lot of lifting with his wife and everything like that. Nate, dude, I feel like maybe you could ask Riley why she swiped right on me. You know,
It's a two-way street.
I don't know. You're putting me on the spot here, but you know, like Nate, you got a good-looking family, man. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Well, that wraps up.
That's wild. Thanks, Nate.
That wraps up Instagram questions.
All right.
I did have one question. I thought this question from last week from Will was really good. His was, if drifting and mountain biking didn't exist, what's your main hobby? I'm going to alter it a little bit for you.
Sure.
So let's say if snowboarding or the 8.6 or BMX didn't exist, what's your main hobby?
100% fishing. Dude, I got hooked into that, no pun intended.
Okay.
This past year. I love it so much. I started off kayak fishing, freshwater for like largemouth bass, and it's a pleasure to do. And then recently this fall, I tried to do the fall run at the Cape Cod Canal to catch some striper.
Mm-hmm.
I was very close to getting my first striper. I had one on the hook, but it lashed off. But that's my goal, especially for the spring run. Get me a good striper for sure.
Deep sea fishing pulls so hard.
Yeah.
Like
I'd love to do that too.
I go deep sea charter fishing, and I tell people the easiest way to get into it. I have some buddies with some boats, and I think like Adrian, I think his he knows somebody who does, like,
his
big boats.
stepdad.
Yeah, stepdad does
Sick.
like big boat fishing and everything like that. And it's like, if you have somebody that you know that can get you into that way, that's like the best way to do it. But charter, getting a half day charter, you go to the dock at 5 a.m., 5 to 10, 5 to 12. It's like $60-$70. At least it was a few, when I last did it. It's worth it to get your feel for it. They bait and hook for you. They'll take the fish off. They measure it all. If you get a legal fish, they'll take it. They'll fillet it for you. You tip them at the end. You tip the deckhands. But do deep sea fishing, they pull so hard. Like it's crazy how much energy and pull a good striper or anything has.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, my other good group of guys that I hang out with from high school, they love fishing. They got little John boats. Gloucester, this area's got a lot of ponds, a lot of little rivers.
It's a good time for sure.
And they love the freshwater fishing. So like they're always, a good Saturday in the summer for them is, meeting up at my buddy Rich's house 6 a.m. with the kayaks, a John boat with the electric trolling motor. And, we'll go out there for 7-8 hours together on the lake, floating around together, drinking beers, having a couple J's. And it's just like, dude, honestly, like you said, it's a really good hobby. I suggest people get into. If you like spending time outside and doing something, and if you don't want to hurt the fish, man, like once you're a good fisherman, once you get a feel for it, you can catch and release all day without hurting them. So
Absolutely.
I definitely agree. Fishing's a really nice one.
For sure.
So I used to fish a lot in high school.
Yeah.
I haven't fished in years from that point on.
Yeah.
But so are you more of a morning fisherman or evening fisherman?
Definitely an evening, but I'm not. I'll definitely fish in the morning too. It's definitely good, like an after work kind of thing. Like usually, like what I'll do is like when I'm working is I'll get off work, do a loop at my local trail mountain biking, and then if there's still some sunlight left, because usually in the summer it goes till like 8 a.m. I'll go and throw the kayak till it gets dark, and I'll go and fish
awesome.
that one. Yeah, it's a good time.
That is like.
It's a
that
great
is
time.
Such an ideal after work.
Just think about it. It's good.
It's so laid
man,
back.
that
It's
gets
all
me
laid
fired
back.
up for summer.
Yeah,
It's
for
all
sure,
laid
dude.
back.
I can't wait for summer. I love snowboarding. I love the cold, but I'm stoked for the summer.
I love the snow. I love big snowstorms. Like I live in a good neighborhood, so like you take the Subaru out and the snow drifting, and it's like one of my favorite things to do throughout the year. But like these last few days, like going out my morning break at work and feeling some sunlight, seeing the snow melting,
for sure.
I'm like, it's time.
Starting to get that spring itch.
I've had enough. I'm getting cabin fever. Like I want to hit the mountains. I want to hit some nice trails this year. I want to. I'm kind of ready to break this ice storm we've been having.
Winter's cool at first, and then it just like starts to drag a little bit.
By the end of February, it's March 1st now.
Let's
I'm
go.
so over it, man.
Yeah. Said definitely this year more than others.
Yep.
I guess.
Good question though.
You have any other questions from the callback that you wanted to hit on, or?
I had one. Oh, last question for me.
Yeah.
Speaking of summer, do you have any other upcoming trips or something like that? or big trips planned for this summer, spring?
So usually there's a trip that me and my buddies we do every year around like June, and it's called New England Forest Rally.
I go all the time.
We both went to it.
Yeah.
Dude, it's sick. They didn't have it last year, and then the last time I went, someone actually had an accident and they had to get cut short.
Yep.
But for people who don't know, it's this rally stage in Vermont. And it's like
at Sunday River.
At Sunday River.
It's not to correct you, but it's not Vermont. It's Maine and New Hampshire, the border.
Okay.
It's the border between Maine and New Hampshire.
Yeah. Well, so we get a camp spot like in Vermont.
Okay, and then you go over.
It's kind of close. Yeah. So it's like we make this thing where it's like a camping kind of thing, and then we go and get rigs and we go over to the stage and we go to a couple of stages. But yeah.
Hey, I'd love to if you want to come up.
For
you
sure.
know, do a little. I'm another group of my BMW buddies. We like to him and his brother. We like to rent a Airbnb. We like to try to get a nice big Airbnb right from the staging area, right between all the stages in Maine and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And we like to post up and we like to try to hit everything we can.
Yeah.
So let me know.
Whenabouts is this?
They usually do mid to early July. The last few years, the reason why they didn't have it last year is after the accident.
Yep.
So there's a couple public stages. The first big one, I believe it's Big River Pond or something like that. That's the big one with like the big jump that you see that goes viral. Ken Block and Travis Pastrana and everything. It's where their big jump is on the stage. Oh, it's Concord's Pond. My bad.
Okay.
Concord's Pond, the first stage. That's a public stage. That's a public road. You know, the town, the area acknowledges and, you know, is ready for that every year. But a lot of the other, I believe it's stages 3 through 7 or 3 through 5 are private land. And a big problem, what happened this year, the last year I went, was there was so much spectator traffic that it was inhibiting people that lived on the road from getting out of their driveways and access utilities.
It was kind of like a hindrance at that point.
Yeah, so I think they needed to take a breather year to kind of figure out some better logistics, maybe do some rerouting, figure out better parking situations, better traffic flows. I really, really hope it'll come back because it's one of the most they say that the Maine and New Hampshire, New England Forest Rally is the best mimicking of the Finnish rally roads, like the true rally routes. Like, you know, the rally drivers like Sebastian Loeb and all these guys that are, you know, the big names, Colin McRae, you know, the real, you know, hardcore rally lineage guys. You know, they drive in Maine and New England and they say it's the most that feels like where rally started and the roots over in like Finland and everything like
Makes
that.
sense.
So
it's a really cool time.
It's awesome. It's badass. It's freeform. It's free. You know, it's just, you got to know where to find your parking spots. Like the first couple of years I went with my buddy Lewis and Nick, like we didn't know where the good spot was. Like,
yeah, I went 1 year with Corey.
Yeah.
And we couldn't, we went to like the start of one and then tried to find a good break
We were
point.
calling, there's no service up there. You can't use the GPS maps half the time. So like we were trying to drop a pin to you guys to where we were on the road. And we were like, if you guys don't get to the cutoff, like the roads are shut off an hour before. So it's like you can park and then maybe try to run in and meet us. And it's fun because it's not just like you get your tickets to an event, you show up and you sit down in your seat. It's like you got to have a game plan.
Oh, yeah.
And like the second day, like we didn't know, like no one knew that last year that second stage was going to be canceled in 2023. We were actually up at I think it's Log Road or Fish Pond Road or one of those weird little whatever the road was on, and you park on this main road that goes up into Canada, and then you walk down this logging road. And when we went last time, we walked 2.5-3 miles down the logging road. Lewis, Nick, Lewis, and I, and we watched there all day. And you know, Nick lost his phone in the woods, no service, couldn't find anything. And then we were walking down to that spot this time, and then I don't know how you found out about it on the Saturday morning.
So we were like driving to the stage, and then I forget, one of my buddies had like a radio or something, and they were just going around like announcing. Yeah,
so I was running back up to the top of the street because my buddy's older brother and his girlfriend, they stopped for coffee on the way, and they were like, "Hey, you're the runner in our group. Go run up to the road." So they, you know, we can't call them, you know, wait for them to walk into the road and bring them to us. And I was like, "Yeah, I got you." And I'm running up in the crude vehicle, the kitted out Outback Wilderness and stuff that they have. She put the window down. She's like, "Hey, you know, you kind of look like somebody who kind of knows or has a grasp of what's going on. Like, this is what's going on. The stage is closed. We can't explain any further, but spread the word, tell your people." And I was like, "What?" Like, and I kind of like was like, "Yo, you're going to have to give me a little bit more than that." Yeah. Like, I'm in the middle of like running up. Like it's a big day. You
Yeah.
got planned. We got plans. And so I was kind of like, hey, like, what
What's going
happened?
on?
Like, what's going on? And they're like, I can't say, but they essentially said, if you know where to look, you'll be able to find out. So I go into like the Reddit forums, the New England Forest Rally Reddit forums, and I go into the Facebook pages, and unfortunately, I've discovered about the accident. I had known about
really
the accident,
sad.
but it unfortunately somebody had passed, and it sucks. But rally is one of the most deadly sports, and it's what makes it such a good spectator sport.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty insane. Like for people who don't know, like there's no guardrails. There's literally just they tape off like a road. Some of these roads are like residential. You know what I mean? And they block off these roads, and people like will sit on the side of like maybe behind a tree or something, but you're like totally exposed. Some people cross around and try to get a better spot, but like you got to be very aware.
You got to be on point.
Shit can go down.
And
these cars are doing like 70 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
The best way I put it is it's like a 15, 20 mile an hour dirt gravel road speed limit where like you'd be like if you do 30 in a truck or an SUV and you don't know how to drive, it can get a little squirrely. And then you have people in like kitted out cars doing 75 over blind crests. That's the one thing I think is like the most crazy about rally sports is it's a lot of blind turning, and you have that co-driver reading off notes, and it's like right, left, right 5 left, 200 out. And it's like you just have to know the timing that means in your brain to like the communication you have with them. And it's like, oh, right, 200, turn in now.
Yeah.
And like just whoop and fly over and go into that. And it's, drifting's cool. Time attacks are cool. Drag racing's cool. But I think if you gave me the opportunity to like try any one motorsport, like without having to pay for it myself and I like not going to get hurt, I would say rally 100%.
Yeah,
I'd love to try
crazy.
that.
Dude, I've always been impressed with their driving, but I've been very impressed with the co-driver. How are they reading that and not throwing up? Because if I look at my phone passenger, I'd be done.
I think it's a lot of trust, and then it's almost like you got to want to be in the car and you want to almost be supporting that person, and you almost. I think, maybe a lot of them understand that, like, I can deal with this and I can do this. And a lot of them are best friends.
Yeah.
A lot of them are good friends.
Husband and wife. Like,
yeah.
Like it was.
Yeah. I don't think it was husband and wife. It was, so I believe what had happened, I'm not 100% on this. I've forgotten some of the details, but I believe that it was a younger male driver and a legendary older female co-driver who has worked with, people he knew, or kind of like that kind of vibe. And listen, like that's why it was called off Saturday, because it wasn't just anybody. And not to say,
it was a huge hit.
Yeah, it was a huge hit. And they were flying, dude. I remember that car the Friday when I was at the event. I was right at the big jump, and they were moving. That dread, dude. They were I think they might have been the 4-wheel drive open points leader at the time. Yeah. They're a fast fucking car, and it was just it was like a late 90s, early 2000s Subaru Outback Sport.
Camera just died.
Camera died. Audio only. That thing's on a battery?
Yeah.
Whatever. No big deal. All right. I think.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off.
No problem.
No,
seems like we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to wrap it up. All right. It's been a blast,
Yeah,
Nick.
This is awesome. I really appreciate the invite, guys. This is really cool.
No, this is
awesome, dude.
Made me feel comfortable.
Really got to know you.
Getting into
we're trying.
This is cool.
Hey, shout out people on the IG. What IG they can follow you on for the people that aren't watching? What's the IG?
So if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just Nicolas Ladeira, no H, Nicolas Ladeira.
I'll say, guy's got some nice pictures up there. He knows how to take a good one. So you're not just gonna get some fluff in your feed. You'll get some good stuff every once in a while. So
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
No problem, man. Thanks for coming on.
Peace.
Later.